Hello, this is Nick Oswald, the founder of Bitesize Bio, and welcome to this Bitesize Bio webinar, which is part of a new series that we are calling The Happy Scientist. This series will focus on actionable steps you can take to make sure you stay happy, focused, and satisfied in the lab. Today's presentation is titled The Happy Scientist Presents the Art of Going Slow, and it's being presented by Kenneth Vogt, who's the commercial director and the kind of head coach at Bitesize Bio, and I'll be helping a little myself too. As always, we will have a Q&A session after the presentation, so please type any questions that you have into the questions box, which appears on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will answer them during the course of the broadcast. So now over to you, Ken, to get the presentation started.
All right, thanks, Nick. So, going slow. A lot of you are right now thinking, that is exactly what's happening to me. I'm going slow against my own will. It's not what I wanted, but it is what it is. So, what we're going to talk about today is why this little blip on the screen that has forced you to take a look at some things and change some things, there may be some takeaways here that you're going to want to carry forward. And going slow is actually quite beneficial. So we'll start off by asking the obvious question, why would I want to do this? You know, like, I'm doing it now because I'm being forced, but I'm not sure I see the advantage of going slow. In fact, I feel like I'll just end up doing less and I won't be as competitive and I won't be as highly regarded. And you might have all kinds of ideas in your head of why slow wouldn't work for you. But we're going to try and put some ideas in your head about why it will work for you and how you can take advantage of this and how you can really get some lasting gains out of it. So the first thing that you get out of going slow is you have greater clarity. You know, so if you're hustling all the time, what's the point if you're going in the wrong direction? Too many people are just screaming down the path and they don't even really know where they're going. They don't know what results they want. And it ends up being like running on a treadmill. Yes, you're running, you're getting some exercise, but you're not getting anywhere. And without clarity, you can't get anywhere. So clarity will only be possible for you if you slow down. If you can't see where you're going, if you're too busy with your head down, you'll never know what's next, and you will never be able to deal with problems as they come along, because that's how things are. When you make a plan, the best laid plans of mice and men, right? You have to see what's happening along the way, and you also have to be able to see opportunities, because sometimes things pop up that you couldn't have anticipated that make for an advantageous change. And so you want to be able to have still have some bandwidth left that you can see those things and that you can ponder them and that you can act on them. So here's something that you can do, something that you can actually put in your schedule. Schedule a meeting with yourself every week. It doesn't have to be terribly long. It could be an hour, it could be a half hour, but the idea is that you're taking that time to reflect on what your intentions are and to observe any new challenges that are on the horizon or any new opportunities, anything that's showing up for you. It gives you a time to think about what's working with what you're doing and also what's not working. And it tells you where the focus of your energy should be in the next week. So that gives you an opportunity to incorporate clarity as something that's always part of your operation. For a lot of folks, clarity is an afterthought. They don't get around to clarity unless they have time. Well, that's a backwards way of looking at it. You want to be clear at all times, and you want to operate within the bounds of clarity. So if you're finding you're getting unclear, the answer is to slow down, maybe even to stop, so that you can have a chance to reconnect with what your true objectives are. And as Nick said, he may chime in at any time, and I want to remind him he can. If he's hearing anything at any time, go ahead and interrupt me.
I'm here. I'm just listening just now.
Okay. All right. So another thing that you can consider is, you can't hustle if you're dead. If you're, I realize it's a bit of an exaggeration, but you just can't keep on working and create the kind of life you want if you push yourself beyond the limits of what you can perform. That everybody's got only so much they can do. And I presume with everybody you have goals and you want to succeed at those goals. Well, then you have to recognize that you are just one of the tools that you're using. And so it's like any tool. You gotta use it within its limits, and you gotta keep it in good repair. And sometimes you need to set it down for a while. And you're a collection of things. You are a collection of mind, body, and spirit. And they all have to be operating in optimal form if you're going to get optimal results. And so many people will burn out some 1, 2, or 3 of those. They'll just drive themselves to oblivion on that. If you burn out your body, if you push yourself beyond your body's limits, it's going to impact what you can do. If you stress your mind beyond its limits, if you push your own spirit beyond its limits. And when I say spirit, I'm talking about, the who of what you are. I think most of us know that we're not our bodies. We possess a body. But if you understand the concept that my body is just this thing that's carrying me around, but it's not me, and it's not me because if you could lop parts of it off and you'd still be you. Well, the same concept applies to your mind. A lot of times folks think, well, I'm not my body, I'm my mind. Like, not really. Your mind is another tool that you are using, and that you is that we'll call that your spirit, to put it in, just to put a label on it. Each of those 3 things has to be happy and healthy and able to bear whatever is being presented to it. So you got to pay attention to yourself.
Yeah. So last week we talked about the the idea of treating yourself as if you would treating your mind, body, spirit, as you're calling it here, as in the way that a professional athlete would. So not expecting, even a sprinter wouldn't expect themselves to be sprinting all of the time. And
Right.
And the inevitable consequence of doing that is that they would get injured, burn out and injured. But in more mental disciplines, it's more possible to do that, but it doesn't mean it's any less injurious. Is that the right word? It doesn't cause you any less
injurious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I was thinking about that last year when I was watching basketball, and Kevin Durant, in a key moment, just all of a sudden he just fell down, and that was it. He was done for the season. He'd torn a tendon, and nobody pushed him. He didn't slip, nothing. He just gave out. Well, he had been pushing his body to the limits. Now, this is a professional athlete who's at top of his form, one of the greatest players in the game, and he pushed himself too far, and it took him out of the game.
Well, an analogous thing there is myself. And I'm sure many other people have as well. If you push yourself too hard mentally, your brain will just say, "That's it. I'm checking out for a while." You just have a burnout, and you can't and you are out of the game for weeks or months in the same way as an athlete would be injured. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
And I know this is kind of an omen, but Kevin Durant was one of the first NBA players to actually contract coronavirus.
Okay. Yeah. We have got a question here that's just come in, Ken, that's related to this.
Yeah.
How can we achieve big goals if it requires me pushing my limits to achieve it?
Well, first off, you're making an assumption that it requires you pushing your limits. If it requires you to go over your limits, you will not succeed at your goal. So you will need to take a look at that again. If it's something that just requires you to give your all, not more than your all, but your all, well, then these are the things that are going to help. You're going to have to make sure you're taking time to take care of your body. It means you're going to have to take time to cook a healthy meal or to exercise. And you have to take care of your mind. You'll have to have some time to, like, maybe to do some journaling, that you could just dump some things out and get rid of it. You'll have to do some things for your spirit, like meditating is a good example of something a lot of people do for that. It's going to be part of the process. So if you have a big goal, you have to build these things in to what your daily and weekly tasks are, because it's that maintenance that's going to allow you to continue day after day, week after week, month after month, to continue delivering. If you don't, then you're just not going to make your goals.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the prevailing wisdom is that you have to push very hard to get the stuff you want, to be the winner. And I guess what this is all about, and a lot of what we're talking about here, is actually you can actually get much more done, and you can do it better, and you can have a better quality of life if you just don't follow that wisdom and go the opposite way.
All right, and let's look at some of the top achievers in the world today. Let's take somebody like Oprah Winfrey, or how about Mark Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce, or Ariana Huffington, or Beyonce, or the CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner. They all meditate every day, all of them. How on earth did they, with their busy schedules and their amazing level of accomplishment, have time to meditate? And their answer will be that they wouldn't have been able to accomplish these things if they hadn't taken that time. So if they can do it, you can do it too. It's, everybody gets the same 24-hour clock. Bill Gates doesn't get any more time than you. So it's up to you to choose how you manage it, and to recognize that. Think about this: if you're gonna work really hard, let's say the average person punching the clock puts in 8 hours of work a day, and you say, I can do better than that. I can work a 10-hour day. I can work a 12-hour day. I can work a 16-hour day. Well, how far can you go? 24 is the end. And by the way, if you try to work 24 hours a day, you'll die, because you have to sleep, because your body and your mind demands that. So there is a limit here. That you can't work 25 hours a day. It's not possible. So and we need to look at too, what are we wasting time on? It's the average person these days is spending 53 minutes a day on Instagram. And that's not counting all the other stuff, the Facebook and Snapchat and LinkedIn and Twitter and all the rest of it. So, where are you spending time? Where are you wasting time? And I don't mean wasting as in that it's not, if you sit and watch the sunset, that's actually beneficial for you. That's not a waste of time. But the time that you're spending on Instagram, if you're not an Instagram influencer, what is that getting you? What value are you getting from that? So you got to look for the value you're getting from the things you spend your time on, and you will find that half hour spent exercising makes a huge difference. I've noticed for myself, if I get up an hour earlier to go to the gym, if I lose an hour's sleep to go to the gym, by the end of the day, I feel much better. I'm much more energetic. My mind is clear. Everything's better. And theoretically, I lost an hour's sleep. So it's advantageous. And if I had to take that hour, not from sleeping, but from my work time, I still am accomplishing more during the day, because I'm staying clear-headed and I'm staying energetic. So then, when it's 7 hours of clock time, I get more done than 8 hours of clock time if I hadn't bothered to exercise. So it's more to think about. Now there's more. So let's go to the next step. If you will slow down, you will harness the power of emotion. And I know for a lot of scientists, they don't like to think about this. They that emotion is something that should be left for weak-minded people and children. It's like, but that's not true. We're humans, and there are benefits to emotions. Emotions are a guide, and they help you take inventory of what's happening around you and how best to respond. Successful people don't try to control their emotions. What they do is they make sure that they feel them and manage them, but they just don't let them trigger them into bad behaviors or actions that'll do damage. So one of the ways to look at emotions then is to start looking at them, is to actually start. So how about this? If you name it, you can tame it. So if you can stop and slow down and look at what emotions you're experiencing and describe them to yourself, then that will give you a process that will allow you to have a healthy response. You're not going to just automatically engage. Your emotion won't take charge. You'll have a moment to think in between. So for example, anger is a very powerful emotion. It tells you when something's wrong. And if you harness it, it can provide you energy to change whatever is wrong. Now, if you're erratic about it, and if you're just hustling for time, well, then anger is just going to get the best of you. And then you're going to fly off the handle, and you're going to say things that you're going to regret later, and you're going to make other people angry. And all of that works against you actually accomplishing things. So if you instead slow down a bit and go, wow, look at this. I just got mad. What did I get mad about? Well, somebody promised something they didn't deliver. Why did that happen? Did they have all the information they needed? Were they clear what I expected? Did they have too much going on in their world that they couldn't get it done? Or are they showing that they do not care about our relationship, or that they feel like they don't have to respond to me? These are all questions that when you have the answers, gives you a much clearer picture, instead of just yelling back at somebody or writing that that email that you would have never said in person to somebody that doesn't actually get them to move. Or if it does get them to move, it does it at a cost that you don't want to pay. So understand that when you go slower, you'll be far more in charge of your emotions. And if you've found that you are occasionally getting taken over by your emotions, the solution is to slow down.
And it's worth noting.
Next thing about going.
It's worth noting that emotions can include their not just outgoing, not like aggressive things like anger and so on, but that can also just be anxiety or fear.
Sure.
So which is a lot. If you're overworked, that's pretty common feeling. I remember.
Absolutely. And it's not just about negative emotions either. Even positive emotions can steer you and take you away in a way that you weren't expecting. Because let's say that you get a really positive result in a certain test or experiment, and now you're just overly optimistic about everything that could come after that. Well, if you can just see that for what it is, it's great. You want to celebrate your successes, but if you can recognize, okay, that's just about this success, there's still other steps to go, and I don't want to gloss over the problems that are still to be solved, then you'll be much clearer, and that clarity is going to help you. Another thing that happens here is then, this is what we've been talking about. It's when you slow down, it's going to help you make better decisions. And we're all very invested in these decisions that we're making. So you can imagine if you were a car engine, and all the time it was just pedal to the metal and red line on RPMs all the time, that engine is going to overheat and fail. You just can't do it well. But if you slow down and you have time for rest, time for pondering, for thinking, for just contemplating, well, then you're going to be able to make better decisions. You're going to lower your baseline of mental stress. When your mind's racing, it is hard to make good decisions. It's not as free to absorb information. It doesn't have access to all the circumstances to draw on so as to make good decisions. Now, there are people that really thrive off of an intense environment, and some people that do really well in intense environments, but even they take a break. So you take like somebody that works in an emergency room nurse, an emergency room doctor. They're waiting. But when those doors swing open, it all is happening right now. And somebody may literally die in minutes or seconds if they don't act quickly. But they've already keyed everything in. They got a system in mind for everything. They got protocol. They're ready for that. And the reason for that is because they took the time to get the protocol and get it in place and to get it installed in their own head. So this is how you'll make the best decisions in the moment. If you're prepared to make decisions, if you're in a position where sometimes things happen, where there's a very fast moving environment, the answer is to prepare it ahead of time so that when you're making decisions at a fast pace, that they're good ones. Okay. So what all this really boils down to then is you got to change your focus. Your focus can't just be on, my objective is to finish this project. You got to continually be focused on reducing your own stress, noticing your own stress. When you notice that you're stressed, then you're in a position to mitigate the causes of the stress. Now, sometimes you can't, but what you can do then is you can say, all right, well, then I need to harden myself. I need to strengthen myself for a stress that is unavoidable. So it gives you the opportunity to be prepared for what's coming. Now, this is not to say that now my main objective in life is to remain stress-free, because actually life is about stress, and stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. All life goes through stresses, and happy occasions cause stress. I mean, that's actually well studied, that falling in love puts you under stress. Well, it's we don't stay away from things. We still want to have interactions with other humans, and humans are what causes stress. But if you recognize that you can reduce the stress, well, you can always keep it at a manageable level. So, okay, this is why you should go slow. So the obvious next question is going to be, well, how am I supposed to do that?
Before we dive into
how is that?
Before we dive into that, Ken, there's a few questions that might be worth dealing with now. Two of them are related. Let's see. Okay, so one is on one side, how do you figure out whether you are you're just being lazy or not? How do you figure out where the boundary is between, or the sweet spot is between laziness and pushing yourself too hard, I guess. Another one, how do you cope with being demotivated? So that's two on the kind of negative side.
Okay, great.
We'll them first.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with lazy. One of the things that, I mean, this was a really great question, by the way, because sometimes we make the assumption that everybody who shows up for this kind of presentation, they're A-type personality and they're always burning it at both ends, but that's not true for everybody. So the question is, am I being self-sparing? Is that what this is about? Am I looking to have the least amount of effort, the least amount of change, the least amount of any interruption in my self-sparingness? And that's something you have to assess for yourself. If you're finding that's how your personality is going, that you're always just, how can I make this easier for me? Well, then you need to start asking some questions from yourself. Why am I like that? Everybody's not like this. Why am I so self-sparing? And start digging into that. And I think we talked about this before, the asking why until it stops making sense. Like, why did I avoid putting my hand up saying, I'll take that assignment? Well, because it looked like a lot of work. Well, why is that a problem? Well, because I'm worried that if I took it on, I wouldn't be able to do the work necessary to get it done. Well, why don't I think I can get the work done? Well, because I failed before. Why did I fail before? Well, I didn't always prepare for what I needed to do. Why didn't I prepare? Because I was being self-serving again. So you start to see a loop going here, and you go, okay, this is really not working for me. I think I'm being self-sparing, but I'm not sparing myself. I'm actually causing myself some problems here, and maybe even some direct pain because of that. And so, you look for that. And this idea of being lazy, it's funny, where I grew up, in the culture I grew up in, to be lazy was a horrible thing. It was just, if somebody called you lazy, that was just the most invective insult you could possibly have. Well, years later, I had a stepson. I encountered him first when he was 13 years old. And one day I realized he was really lazy and it was really bothering me, and I wanted to help him. And so I was having a conversation with him, and I said, I hate to say this to you, but you're lazy. And he looked at me in the eye and went, yeah, no harm. That just didn't bother him at all. And I'm like, wow, I was so worried to say this to you because I thought it was such a deep insult. And you're not taking it as an insult. Do you think it's not a bad thing to be lazy? He said, no, I don't think it's bad to be lazy. Oh, well, then I can have a different conversation with you. So it's like, well, let's lay out what are the costs of being lazy. I understand the benefits, but what are the costs of being lazy? And he had never considered that there was a cost to it. So that's the thing to look at is if you find a behavior that you feel like could be detrimental to you, we'll dig into that to find out why you feel it would be detrimental to you, and that'll help move you off the dime. So when you realize, hey, I'm engaging in this behavior, it's not about the specific project, it's not about the specific task, because sometimes when you find yourself rebelling against or avoiding doing a certain thing, it's like, why wouldn't I do that? It's not hard. I've done it many times before. It's just a pattern now. So you deconstruct the pattern by taking that moment of thought and going, why? Ask yourself why. And don't let yourself off the hook, man. When you ask yourself why, you have to be brutal with yourself about it. It's like, no, I will have the answer. And then I'm going to ask why again. And we're going to go all the way until we get to absolute base metal. This is what is ultimately motivating this behavior in me. And that'll give you the opportunity to fix it or to change it. I say fix, it may not be broken, but you may allow you to alter it.
Isn't there a flip side to that, Ken, where it depends on what you're labeling as laziness? And as much as, or if you consider I'm not working 12 hours a day, I'm being lazy, and it's your definition of laziness and not laziness that's the problem.
That's true. And again, this all comes down to taking a moment and getting a very clear picture of what's in front of you. And be a scientist about this. See what is there, collect the data that is available, and don't judge the data. Just let the data be what it is.
I know for me, that's what I used to feel, was that if I didn't put a certain amount of hours in, and especially that was expected by someone else, then I was lazy. And then I switched to looking at, rather than hours, what's my output? And if you look at it like that, then you can and measure based on what you're accomplishing rather than how many hours you're putting in. Then it's often it's often more beneficial, because you can see, oh well, I can actually work less hours than I think and still achieve enough, in quotes, and then it's just a different way to look at it.
Yeah, you can't put effort in your bank account. People often value effort over accomplishment, and it's just the wrong way to go. Effort, you will not get anything but a participation award for effort. If you actually want to win, you got to accomplish things. You can put in less effort and accomplish more.
It's literally the tortoise and the hare, isn't it? The hare's going crazy trying to get there, not thinking about it, and the tortoise just makes solid progress and wins.
Sure.
So here's another extension of that. So how, what's the line between laziness and procrastination, and how can you justify procrastination?
Okay. When it comes to procrastination, again, there's often something underneath the waterline, and you got to ask yourself why. Why at this moment am I procrastinating? Because you may find you may find that you have an overall characteristic of being a procrastinator. Well, that's something you really ought to dig deeper into with yourself. But most of us, that's not what we are all the time. But every once in a while, I'm avoiding a task. I'm just keep procrastinating on. I keep pushing it off. And I never say no to it. It's always like, yeah, I'm going to do something else before I do that. I gotta do these two other things, and then I'll get right back to that. We're telling ourselves that story all the time. And again, it's just because it's something we don't want to see. So we don't want to look at it. We don't want to know. We're afraid the answer. We're afraid to know why it is we're avoiding it. And courage is a fundamental characteristic of life. And you see that all the way down to bacteria. If it has the courage to keep going, it'll survive. And this is the same thing with you. Procrastination is something where you are absent of courage. You need courage to face whatever it is that's bothering you about it. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to face doing it. Maybe you shouldn't do it. Maybe it shouldn't be done at all. Maybe it should be done by somebody else. But until you examine, why am I hesitating here? Until you give yourself an answer for that, you won't know. And so I just want to encourage you to ask why about yourself all the time. I'm sure you're asking why all day long at work. You're doing it all day long in the science that you do. Well, make yourself a scientific study. Study you. And nobody's going to know you better than you. And you'll be shocked how poorly you know you at this moment. You can do better at it. And it just comes from using that simple technique. Now, we've already spent a lot of time here talking about why you should want to slow down, but we got to get to how. How really matters. So let's dig into a few things that you can do. One thing you can do is wake up slowly. If you find yourself every day, the alarm clock goes off, you launch out of bed, and you have to go straight to checking your email, or you got to turn on the news immediately, or you got to check your voicemail or your text messages. That is a hard way to wake up. So cut yourself a little slack and try and change your morning routine so you can wake up a little more slowly. Because you think about what you're doing to your body when you go straight from sleep to having to be 100% awake. You're forcing stress hormones into your bloodstream. You're making it really hard on yourself. But if you could set your alarm for 10 minutes earlier than you would normally get up, and that 10 minutes is not to be invaded on. You're not getting up 10 minutes early to do what you always do. You're getting up 10 minutes early so you can just take it easy for a moment. Take a moment to drink a glass of water, to do a little gentle stretching, that is. To just give it a moment so that you can walk to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee instead of run. And you can take your time. So I would challenge you to take 7 days of getting up 10 minutes early, where you are not allowed to do any of the things you normally do when you get up. All you are allowed to do is to take it easy, to take a moment to look out the window, to just sit in a chair and not have to think about anything, and just let whatever comes to you come to you. 10 minutes. Wake up slowly. 7 days. Give it a shot. Next thing you need to do is you need to identify what is most important today. Now, I know you've all got to-do lists, and there's probably a zillion things on them. And you're not going to get all those things done today, are you? Because you never do. The problem we have every day is we start with a to-do list that is impossible, couldn't possibly be accomplished today. And there's all these things on that list that are not going to be able to be finished today, and yet you're constantly giving them attention today because you keep looking at that list and going, oh, about that, no, I can't do that yet. And you waste so much time and attention that way. So there's a wonderful book, and we'll have this in the show notes. It's called The Power of Less by Leo Babauta. And he talks about how you should pick out the 3 most important tasks for your day, every day, and then, this is an important point, do them first. Nothing else gets to be done until the 3 most important tasks are done. And that is your list for today. Anything else you might happen to do is great, but those 3 things got to get done. Now, and I say 3, it may be possible that there isn't time to do even those 3 things. Well, then fine, let it be 2, let it be 1. And if you got one thing that's going to consume your whole day, it's probably not a singular task. You should break that into multiple parts. But get super, super clear on identifying what is most important. And what is most important is often the stuff that's hardest to do, the most distasteful and the most painful and the most frightening. I want you to do those things first. Do them first, get it over with, and then see what happens. You're going to find it's a far more rewarding day when you get that stuff done, and it's not hanging over your head. And when something gets pushed to the next day that you were scared to do today, you're going to be more scared to do it tomorrow. It's going to be painful. And anybody who has lived their life thinking that, last minute panic is the motivation that I need to get something done. And I may well say that's well proven in my life. That's how I got through my degree program. That's how I got this job in the first place. That's, it may be true you have been doing it that way, but it is a very, very hard way to go. And you're maybe asking yourself, well, how do I motivate myself? Because I can't seem to do it. I'm too frightened. Well, the answer is because you're going slow and you're taking time to ask why. You can find out why you're afraid, why you're afraid of doing that task. And you will find more and more that if you do that, you'll stop having tasks in your life you're afraid of. And so this necessity of I have to push myself to be terrified before I can move will be gone. It changes your world. You don't have to be afraid to get things done. Fear does not have to be a constant companion in your life. Okay, so that kind of gets into the next point. One of the fears that we have is that we're going to miss out. I gotta be involved in anything and everything, or I might not be able to enjoy my life. Well, but it's just not true. At any given moment, you can only be doing a certain number of things, and other things are just not going to make the list. You go into a restaurant and you look at a big long menu, and if you order the salad, you're not going to have room to eat the fish. And if you have the fish, you're not going to have the chicken. And if you have the chicken, you're not going to have the steak. Do you lament that as you're in a restaurant? It's like, oh no, if I have this, I won't be able to have that. Yeah, you can. Come back tomorrow. So don't worry about what you're missing. Focus on what you're getting in this moment. At this moment, you're enjoying the entree that's on your plate. And it's one you ordered, so it must be something you like. And presuming the restaurant doesn't screw up, everything's good. You're not missing out on anything, not in reality. We got to differentiate between things that are in reality and things that are possibilities. And so many times people are holding possibilities open because, well, then I might be able to do them. But you have to understand, all of those possibilities are not real. Possibilities haven't happened. It doesn't matter until you make a choice. And by golly, I'm having the fish. Well, you're not missing out on anything. You actually were missing out on everything when you didn't make the choice. Well, now go in, make the choices, and be happy with the choices. And there'll be more choices to make going forward. Another thing that's kind of related to that people do is they compare themselves to others. Well, I'm having the fish, but you're having the chicken, and that looks really good. I should have got that. Stop it. You're having the fish. It's all good. And tomorrow you can have the chicken, or maybe not. Maybe you can't have it tomorrow. I can't go to this restaurant every day. Can't afford it, or I can't afford the calories. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. And you may be thinking, I have to keep up with other people in the lab. and other people at the company or other people in the industry. You don't. You don't have to keep up with anybody. You can just compare yourself to what's possible for you. And it is possible that certain people will exceed you in certain ways at certain times. So what? It's not the end of the world. You're going to have your own successes, and you're going to be your own person. And we've all seen this with people that are super competitive, and we watch the price they pay. And maybe it hurts them in their relationships. Maybe it hurts their health, whether that's physical or mental. Maybe they have some kind of spiritual, moral, ethical crisis because they keep pushing themselves so hard. What a price they are paying to not get the end goal in many cases. So do the best you can with what you have available to you. Don't worry about what they do with what they have available to them. And you're going to find that you are much more successful. And you may find that you will succeed at things that other people don't. It's not always that, hey, somebody else is winning and I'm losing. You may well find that you will win plenty of the time if you can manage to have a pace that you can keep, that you can just keep going forever. Stop sprinting when you should be marathoning. It's all about, can you go the distance? And some people may push ahead of you for a minute, but you'll find you'll pass them up because they burned themselves out and they've been busily staring at you, trying to compare themselves instead of paying attention to themselves. Another thing that we can do, technology is wonderful, and I mean, my personal background is computer science. I've been using computers since before they were popular for people to use them. And I know their power and I love them. And it's amazing to me that we all have a phone in our pocket that has 1,000 times the computing power that took spacecraft to the moon. But it is having a psychological impact on us. And a lot of these apps, they are built specifically to keep us roped in. A lot of these websites are built specifically to keep us roped in. And we keep getting that serotonin hit from every time we check Instagram and every time that we look to see how many text messages we have. And you can take a break from your phone. Some people will do this where it's like, okay, when they come home at 9 o'clock, it's no phones anymore, 9 p.m. Some people, it's like, I do not look at my phone until 8 a.m. I get up at 6, but I don't look at my phone till 8. So give yourself a break. And it's not just the phone, it's the computer, it's the television, it's anything that is tech. And it might be your espresso machine. That sometimes it is good to do things manually. Sometimes it is good to take a walk instead of drive the car. Sometimes you need to set aside all of this technology that is trying to control our lives. And it isn't doing it, with malice. It doesn't know any better. It's dumb that way. It's just knows that I serve this function, so I will keep pushing you to do whatever you are supposed to do so I can do my function. That is the life of an iPhone. So remember, it's a tool. It's there for your benefit and not the other way around. Another thing, and this is especially true right now, turn off the news. You know how much has changed since yesterday? Not that much. It used to be that Walter Cronkite would come on for a half hour every evening and tell us everything we needed to know. Well, now there's 24-hour news stations, and there's multiples of them. And they got to talk about something all day long, but that's all they do is talk. And it isn't helping you. So put yourself on a news diet. Only see it so often. I heard a little blip. I just want to make sure I'm still online.
You're fine.
Okay, good. Good. Again, the technology was talking to me and I had to respond to it. And a lot of people are addicted to the news. Man, they just can't wait. The first thing they do when they get in the door is to check the news, and the first thing when they get up in the morning. And I will grant you that news does impact many of our lives and many of our livelihoods, but whether or not you are up to the second is probably not necessary. So be more thoughtful about what intervals you're going to let it into your life. Okay, next one. This is just some good advice, and this comes from years of doing software development. In the software development world, there was a big study that was done a long time ago, and they found that people that were really great at managing software projects and knew how to estimate those software projects, the people who were the best at it were generally off by, it generally took twice as long as they planned. And so it became an adage in software development that we literally block twice as much time for development as our worst case scenario is. And this has been an effective method that has been used to get us all the way into the internet age. So it's something interesting to consider. It's so easy to underestimate and to not think about through all the details. And there's nothing worse than being pushed for time. And it's, if we don't have a proper deadline, we may automatically create for ourselves a rushed and stressful situation. So imagine now that you have a task you think it's going to take an hour to do, but you block 2 hours for it. And let's say it does take longer than an hour. It takes an hour and a half. Well, you end up feeling good about that, and you have 30 minutes that you can use for something else. Whereas if it took 90 minutes and you'd blocked an hour for it, well, you were going to have 30 minutes of high stress time and 30 minutes being robbed from some other important thing, all gone. So, and again, you may be the first, I know people's first reaction to this is, I can't do that. I just can't do that. You can't do it, or you won't do it, or you won't even try it.
You won't experiment.
Try it. Yeah, exactly. Or my boss won't put up with it, or like, oh yeah, check it out, try it, see what happens, give it a shot, and you will find more often than not that you can actually plan that way, and it will create a far less stressful environment. Remember, we talked about that early on in this, that reducing stress, that is the objective here. That's what going slow is giving you. Okay, now when it comes to time, it's one other thing. You only do one thing at a time. Now, I know all of you are proud multitaskers. Well, I wrote an article several years ago that was reviewing a Stanford study on multitasking. And that study was brutal. It was, and again, I'll put this in the show notes, the article and the study. You think you're a good multitasker. You're not. And I know you think, oh yeah, I am, I really am. I'm the exception. You're not. It's all over the place. If you will do one thing at a time, you will find you get more done, and you will have less stress in your life. And it's not going to help you. You think you can do two things at once. If you do two things at once, you limit your focus on both things at once. So it really is costly. Use an example of people driving and talking on a cell phone. Now, we all know, that's just bad. Don't be, holding that cell phone to your ear while you're driving, because, terrible things could happen. Yes, terrible things can happen, and they do, because people keep doing it because they think they can multitask. And what the study found, and you think that the phone call was distracting people from their driving. Well, that would be true if the driving was the primary activity. But when you're talking on the phone while driving, the primary activity is talking on the phone. So the driving at best is distracting from your phone call. And oh boy, that puts you hurtling down the road at 55 miles an hour with 4,000 pounds of metal, not really giving it any attention at all. It's dangerous. So obviously that's something only kind of multitasking there is. And it's obviously too that not all multitasking would be dangerous. It's just not as effective. So give yourself a break. Do one thing at a time. If you're following the method of having 3 important things to do today, you won't have that emphasis to try and do multiple things at once. And that's what's usually happening. You're not multitasking because it's a great idea. You're multitasking because you feel like I don't have any choice left. I can't get all the stuff done as it is. And by the way, you're not going to get it all done by multitasking. You're still just kidding yourself. Okay. Another thing to do is consider your relationship with substances. When I say substances, I mean things like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, food, and whatever else is going on for you. How important are they to me? How much are they controlling what I do or don't do? Do I find that I have to have that cup of coffee to get fired up in the morning, and I got to keep doing it all day long, or I won't make it through the day, but then I can't sleep that night? Or the same is true of any other substance. And obviously some people have taken these substances to the point of addiction, and some of those addictions have become socially acceptable. Being addicted to caffeine is entirely socially acceptable. Heroin, not so much. But the rationale is the same. We don't want to have anything having control over us. And if we're finding that I have to have this, I gotta have this boost so that I can function, well, that's how you end up eating a whole row of Oreos. We make choices then that otherwise we wouldn't have made, that don't do us much good, and in some cases may do us a lot of harm. So it's something to do, to take inventory of, is there anything controlling me? And if there is, I promise you it's taking time away from you, which is why you have to go so fast all the time. So something to consider. So what kind of things can you do slower? There's some interesting things, just some ideas. And again, you don't have to do any of these things or all of them, but if something rings your chime, do it. If you take a shower every morning, how about taking a bath instead of a shower? Take a little more time for yourself there. Something you can do slower. You normally load things in the dishwasher. Wash some dishes by hand. Now, you don't have to do the whole dishwasher load, but maybe wash a few dishes by hand just to have the experience of it. Can you, instead of watching TV, can you pick up a book and read? Reading takes a little longer than watching. All right, let's say you do read. Maybe read a lot. Could be necessary for your work. Could you take some time to just think instead of read? You've already had a lot of input, no doubt, in your life. Maybe take a little time to process some of that input and not just constantly cram more in there. All right, let's say that you do that. I do take time to think about the stuff I've read. Well, perhaps you can take it to the next step and meditate. Meditating is where you're actually going to tell those thoughts, not now. We're going to let them just go on by. You're going to have a different experience. These are all things that you can do to go slower. Another thing you might think about is food. A lot of people treat food only as fuel. Other people treat food as total indulgence material. It's all about insatiable satisfaction. Well, when you eat more slowly. There's a slow food movement. It's a great idea. Instead of wolfing down that burger and fries, you take a little time and actually notice what you're eating and eat less of it and enjoy it and look for ways to enjoy it. And sometimes we think, oh, the only way I can enjoy this is if I pour lots of fat or lots of sugar on it. That's not true. You may be surprised what just a red pepper tastes like, a raw red pepper, if you just cut it and eat it. Take a moment to simplify how you approach food. There is nothing that says that you can't have just cauliflower for dinner. You can do that. Now, obviously, people say, "Oh, I can't eat cauliflower. It's because I can't eat tomatoes." I'm like, well, don't eat that then. But you can have something else that's healthy, and you can just savor it and take a little time with it and have it with other people and get other people involved in that too and say, hey, tonight we're going to all have a one item meal. It's got to be something healthy, and everybody gets to pick their one item. So like, I'm having cauliflower, I'm having broccoli, I'm having a lean steak, I'm having a chicken breast, I'm having red pepper, whatever. Everybody can do their own thing and just have that and make it simple. It doesn't, obviously not every meal, and you get to have as much as you want. If you're only having cauliflower for dinner, you better be prepared to eat the whole cauliflower head because it's mostly water. You need a lot, and you're gonna need more time for chewing, and you're gonna have to just be present with it a little longer and not be worried about what am I gonna do next. Be present with that meal. Eat that meal now and be present with the meal. Another thing you can do, if you have dogs or cats, you've all seen this. When they wake up, what do they invariably do? And they all do it. They stretch. And they stretch slowly and lazily. And yet, notice how relaxed they look after they do that? How come we're not as smart as our dog? We launch into everything. Take a moment to stretch a little, just to not be worrying about the next thing to do and the next appointment, to just take that breath, be present in that moment, and just breathe. And do that every time you get up. When you get up out of that chair, stretch a little. And I realize, if you're in the lab, you're in the office, well, I don't want to look like a moron, but you can discreetly stretch. It can be done. And then again, maybe you don't care what other people think. So go ahead and have that good, just nice, long, beautiful stretch and let people see the smile on your face and let them recognize that, hey, you know what? He still gets stuff done, even though he takes a moment to stretch. Another thing is, how much noise pollution are you putting in your own life? Do you have constant music on? Is that all the time? Take a moment to turn that stuff off and just hear what's going on. And you hear the buzz of the machinery or the click of the clock or the sound of the air through the air vents, whatever the rhythm of life is. Take a moment to actually hear it instead of blocking it out with a constant trail of noise. So, well, that took a while, almost the whole hour. Nick, is there any other topics to cover there?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions that have come in that I think are quite useful actually for general consumption. So one
Okay.
is if you have a medical diagnosis of, for example, anxiety or depression, and you're trying to live a routine, you're trying to live a life, that is where you're achieving what you want to achieve, but you're suffering with the side effects here of kind of stress or lack of focus. How does that factor into what you're saying here?
Okay. Part of this has to come down to setting your own expectations for what's possible for you and what's possible for your body and what's possible for your mind. If you are living in such a way that you are so stressed that you cannot function without medication that you may not like and may have side effects you don't care for, you may have to reset your own expectations. Now, I'm certainly not telling somebody not to go to the doctor if they are suffering from anxiety or anything like that, or that they shouldn't take their meds. They absolutely should, under a doctor's care. But you got to look at the bigger picture and go, why is this necessary for me or for this body at this time? And see what is going on there. And you can get yourself in a space where other people don't have that. Why me? This is so unfair. And you can waste a lot of cycles on how unjust it is that you're feeling anxiety. It's not unjust. It's just what is. And the more we fight against the reality in front of us, the more we will suffer. So it comes down to really cultivating acceptance. Well, this is how it is. You know, as we get older, there's things we can't do when we were younger. When we were younger, there were things we weren't allowed to do until we were older. Every stage of life, there are things like that. Sometimes there are things that last the whole lifetime, and other things, they're there for a time. But whatever is happening for you right now, the circumstances you're in are the ones that are there. So start from where you are. Don't worry about whether it's fair or unfair, whether you like it or don't like it. It doesn't matter if you hate it. If this is what is, this is where you have to start from. So accept where you are, and then you will see from that point, your options will open up for you. Until you accept where you are, you will not see your options.
Okay, and another question about going slower, using that to increase productivity and so on, and get more space and enjoyment in your life. How do you do that when you are in a working environment that's toxic, with perhaps a demanding boss, stressed co-workers, when the environment's unsupportive, you only have so much strength to maintain your own space? How do you invoke things like this and in that sort of environment where there's pressure not to?
Well, I would say that there's pressure to now to invoke those things for yourself. If the environment is that bad,
there's pressure to appear not to. How about that? There's pressure to appear to not be doing stuff and be going with the flow of just hammering it as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Presuming this is an environment that you are willing to remain in, because obviously one answer to this is get out of that toxic environment. But presuming it's a place you want to be and it's got other pluses to it that make it worthwhile, you're still going to find that there's some things you can do for yourself privately, for your own sanity and your own productivity, that doesn't have to be demonstrated to the world. So like, for instance, when you get clear on what are the 3 things I have to do today, you don't have to have that conversation with anybody. And just having that clarity is going to make it a less stressful environment for you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everybody has been told they had to get 10 things done. Nobody's going to have 10 things done because it wasn't doable, and neither will you. But it won't matter, because you will have the satisfaction of knowing I did accomplish what I knew I could accomplish. And I'm not going to worry about the pressure from the boss yelling about the 7 things that didn't get done. Because you know what? I did the 3 that were doable, and I'm going to enjoy that. Whereas everybody else is going to feel defeated about the 7 things they didn't do.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of it's incremental. You got to take charge of everything you can, and you got to accept the things you can't take charge of.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that brings us to the end of today's webinar. So thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
That was very illuminating.
Slide for that. I forgot to show y'all. The beauty of noise and silence.
Oh, keep that one for next time.
There you go. Well, next time. Well, there's next time.
Yeah.
Next time we're going to talk about managing your energy.
Okay, and that's going to be next week. Is that right?
Well, let's see if it's going to be next week or the week after. We're still working this out here, and we too we take our own medicine here. It's like, I don't want to push this too fast, but I also want to go as fast as we can go. Yeah. So you got to hear a behind the scenes conversation between Nick and I.
Normally it's a lot tougher. You're a lot tougher on me. Okay.
Well, I usually, yes. To be fair here, you're all thinking that Nick is the guy who'd be hard on me. No, it's the other way around all the time.
All right. Okay, so I'm looking forward to that one. I think everyone got a lot out of that, judging by the responses and the questions that are the questions that came in and the responses that are coming in afterwards. Thanks for all of those, everyone. I'm certainly looking forward to the next one. Thanks everyone for coming, taking the time to attend and listen in. If you've enjoyed it and you'd like to view the recording or share it with your friends, That will be on the webinars page at bitesizebio.com/webinars within the next 24 hours, and you'll receive a link to the recording as well. So until next time, good luck in your research and goodbye from all of us at the Happy Scientist and Bitesize Bio.